Hey there. You might look at me and think, she doesn't look very healthy. And you would be right. I am not the healthiest person on the planet. I come from a background of being very overweight and very sick. I've had health problems my entire life, basically. In the last 3 years, I have lost a lot of weight. My body mass index went all the way from the obese range down to the healthy range, which I am very proud of. And I have also completely turned my health around. Most symptoms have completely disappeared, and a few remaining ones are still in the process of healing. And I'm also still losing weight. I have achieved these great results by making many changes in my life at all dimensional levels of my being. I've made physical changes, I have changed my mental patterns, I have done some emotional healing, and I've worked on myself at soul level. In the physical changes, it wasn't just diet, I changed other things too, but a change in diet was really key. It was the one factor that enabled me to lose all that weight and to turn my health around. If you want to improve your diet and make healthier food choices, I think that's an awesome idea. And to help you on this path, I'm going to give you a few tips. Tip number 1 is everything is relative. When people ask me, is this or that food healthy or not? My answer is always the same. It depends. It depends on where you are coming from, what your current diet is, what your background is, any medical conditions you might have. Depending on where you come from, the very same food could be the healthiest food you've ever had in your entire life or total junk. I prefer not to judge the healthfulness of foods on some kind of objective, absolute scale. Instead, I just ask myself, is this food healthy for me compared to what I'm currently doing? And then I aim to eat just a little bit healthier than what I'm currently doing. Tip number 2 is baby steps. I used to hate baby steps. I used to despise baby steps. But as I got older, I realized that I do a lot better with baby steps. And in order to achieve lasting results long term, baby steps are just more effective for me. So what I did is that every Friday I would sit down with a pen and paper and have a look at my diet. And I'd ask myself, am I comfortable with the last change I made? If I'm not comfortable, I just keep going one more week. If I am comfortable, I would take one more baby step. I would just pick one small change that I could make in my diet and commit to that change for the coming week. Some people do better with big leaps, but if you're like me and you do better with baby steps, I suggest you adopt a similar approach and just pick small changes that you could maintain your entire life and just take one step after the other. The advantage of this approach is also that when you slip up, which is almost guaranteed to happen, you will fall down just one step and not fall down the whole ladder again. Tip number 3 is remain flexible in your head. Avoid falling into black and white thinking where you make certain foods bad and certain foods good, and where you have these strict rules about what you must and mustn't eat. This can be difficult if you come from a background of eating disorders or food addictions or overweight, but I think especially then it is important. Remember that what's important is what you do most of the time. If there are a few outliers where you ate especially healthy or especially unhealthy foods, that's no big deal. Now, I'm not saying that you should necessarily eat unhealthy foods from time to time, but even if you maintain a perfect diet where you never eat any unhealthy foods, you can still remain flexible in your head. It's important that you make choices out of love and freedom, and not out of obligation or guilt. It's important that you always remain free in your head. You can eat anything you want. You just choose not to eat certain foods because they don't do you good. But you're free to eat them. And it's important that in your head you remain free to eat them. It's important that in your head you remain at peace with food and not at war. It's like with a relationship. If a relationship is not doing you good anymore, you can just leave. But that doesn't mean that you have to make this person your enemy and then go to war with them. You can just walk away with love. Tip number 4 is let self-love be your compass. To me, self-love means that, of course, I don't insult or judge or criticize myself, but it also means that I don't threaten, scare, or pressure myself. So, for example, I avoid thinking stuff like, oh, I shouldn't eat that food, I really must eat that other food. Or, oh, if I eat this, I'm going to get cancer. Or, oh, I'm going to gain weight if I eat this. I avoid this kind of thinking because it's not a loving thing to do. My compass when it comes to food choices is always, I ask myself, is this a loving choice to make? And sometimes the loving choice to make is eating something that is maybe not optimally healthy, but that helps me to feel better mentally. Maybe that's because I come from a background of being overweight and having this harsh, rigid, black and white thinking. And in order for me to lose weight, I had to let go of that. I had to make peace with food. And I had to become a lot more flexible. And so now I'm trying to remain flexible and always ask myself, is this the loving thing to do? But at the same time, self-love also means letting go of foods that harm me. If I know that a certain food is not healthy for me and I really love myself, then how could I eat it? How could I willingly harm myself? That's impossible. It's like, imagine you're in a relationship with a great guy. He's super handsome, he's a lot of fun, he's great in bed, everything's great. But then you discover that he's actually secretly poisoning you a little bit every day. Would you stay in that relationship? Well, I wouldn't. It's the same with food. No matter how tasty your food is, if you know it doesn't do you good and you know it harms your body, then that food just doesn't love you back. You can be in a relationship with foods who do love you back instead. So I always ask myself, what is the loving choice to make? And I try to maintain a balance between remaining mentally flexible and letting go of food that don't love me back. Tip number 5 is forward focus. Do not waste any time or energy blaming yourself for any mistakes or failures. I'm doing my best. If I were able to do better, I would be doing better. So I'm doing my best. And my best is not always perfect. And sometimes I might even need to make the same mistake over and over again until I get it. But I am not wasting any time or energy blaming myself for that. Instead, I always keep my eyes on the goal. I always focus on what I want. I focus on loving myself. I focus on being healthy. And that's all that matters. Imagine a hill and there are logs coming down the hill, rolling down the hill. And you are running on those logs because otherwise they would crush you. So you're running on them. If you start looking behind you at the logs behind you, You're going to fall on your nose and then you're going to be crushed. So instead, you always have to keep your eyes on the top of the hill and on the logs that are coming. That's the image I have in my head when I think about this. Always, always focus on what you want and focus forward. Do not waste time blaming yourself for past mistakes. Even if it was just 5 minutes ago, it's still the past and you cannot change it anymore. So don't waste any time on it. And the last one, tip number 6, is positive focus. It's similar, but it's not exactly the same. I'm not telling you to be in denial. Of course, acknowledge your failures and your mistakes and everything that is not working well and learn from it. But also acknowledge everything that is working well. Give yourself tons of praise and encouragement and party every time you succeed. Your awareness is like a flashlight in a dark room. The dark room is your reality. And with this flashlight of your awareness, you can shine on some objects in the room. What you shine your awareness on determines how you perceive that reality. You can shine on all the bad stuff, or you can shine on all the good stuff. You're the one who gets to decide. I have found for myself that I tend to get much better results long term if I focus on the positive. And again, it's not the same as being in denial. It's just about consciously choosing to focus all my energy and all my attention on what is working well, on what I want, and on creating this new reality that I want. One thing I do, for example, is to write a journal, and every night I write down everything I did in alignment with my goal and everything that worked well, all the positive results. The negative results, I don't write them down. Thank you for watching. My name is Rosine. If this was helpful to you, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.